I want to thank you guys so much for that presentation and for the CPJ team and all the work that they have done today to design this service. This is an important topic for us to be thinking about and talking about. I mean, how do we achieve peace in a world that so often resorts to violence and dissension over unity and harmony? Well, I believe a first step in that direction is to explore the Scriptures, because God speaks through those Scriptures to our context today as we as Christians try to achieve peace. And so today I wanted to highlight 3 principles of peace that are found in Scripture. The first principle is this: peace begins with you. That comes from Romans chapter 12 when Paul says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Paul just shared a lofty goal for us, didn't he? I mean, live at peace with everyone. What about that neighbor that really gets under your skin because your neighbor maybe plays loud music at night or doesn't mow the lawn enough? Yeah, Paul says live at peace with everyone. What about that person on Facebook that shares those really obnoxious political views that you just can't stand? That one's going to be harder. But yes, Paul says live at peace with everyone. Now that is not an easy thing to do, but it does show us what the Christian goal is, and the Christian goal is to live at peace. Now, Paul does add a caveat to that, doesn't he? Paul says, as long as it depends on you. And there are some situations where peace may not be possible. I think in a situation where someone is trying to inflict violence on you or your family, a peaceful solution may be harder to find. And yet, I believe that peace is possible in a lot more situations than we give credit for. And so as far as it depends on you, we are to live at peace with everyone. In a later letter, in the letter of the Colossians, Paul makes this more explicit. When Paul says, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body, you are called to peace. And be thankful. You see, we all want peace to rule in our country and around the world, but for that to happen, peace must begin by ruling in us and in our hearts. Peace does not begin with your neighbor or your spouse or your coworker. No, peace begins with you and with me. And we get to make the choice to live at peace whenever it is up to us. The second principle of peace that we find in Scripture is that peace is not passive. Peter tells us that you must turn from evil and do good. You must seek peace and pursue it. You see, Peter tells us that peace is not simply the absence of conflict. No, instead, peace is a state that we must pursue. We must seek out in our worlds. I believe the opposite of pursuing peace is to have an attitude of apathy. Because apathy can lead to a feeling of indifference or inaction to the needs of those in our community and around the world. And I get it. The news can be hard to watch because it displays so many gut-wrenching and depressing things that are happening in our world. It can be hard to be invested in what is all going on. And yet, as Christians, we cannot put our head in the sand. We cannot adopt an attitude of apathy because Christ seeks us to pursue peace, to seek peace in our world. And so we get to look for solutions, peaceful solutions in the areas of our world that are in dissension and discord. To be apathetic or oblivious is to abdicate the Christian responsibility of pursuing peace in the world around us. A primary thought that can lead to apathy is this thought of there is nothing I can do. And I sure do feel like that when I look at a map like this. I look at this map and say, I can't do everything. I can't fix all these problems. So there's nothing that I can really do. So I'm just going to focus on my own life and my own family. And that's a tempting thought. But what that sort of thought forgets is that although I can't do everything, I can always do something. And that's what Christ calls us to do in our lives, is to pursue some peaceful solution in the world that you live in. And so don't become overwhelmed by the needs of the world. I encourage you, pick one. Pick one situation that moves your heart, that breaks your heart, and pursue a peaceful solution in that area.